Just describe what it was like when you're in grad school and you know what type of research you were doing and what it was like with the faculty.
Well, Mark, I started out my career in range nutrition right out of a master's degree at Texas A&M. I had a choice between two jobs. One was working in a feedlot at a place called Gonzales, Texas, which was in the hot, humid country, versus going to Burns, Oregon and working there in full-time research on a beef cattle station. And when I went to Burns and interviewed for the job, I just fell in love with the place in eastern Oregon. Very remote location, lots of good hunting and fishing. But so I had the opportunity to work with people in range science who were federal workers, and then there were a couple of us that worked for Oregon State, that worked with the cattle end of the operation there. And so that was my first exposure. I was there for almost 8 years, and worked with Bob Raleigh, and then some of the folks at Oregon State were cooperating with us on some of the work we did. And that's when that was beginning in the late 1950s. In fact, I started to work there in 1958. And shortly after that, W34 was the parent regional research committee that started back at that time, probably in the early 1960s. At any rate, I worked with Ferris Hubbard, who later transferred to University of Arizona. So he was a great help in teaching me some of the ropes of range livestock nutrition. Of course, I grew up on a ranch in northern New Mexico, and had a great love for the outdoors and for cattle operations in the west here. At any rate, I stayed at Burns with Oregon State there for about 8 years, and then as an older guy went for a PhD at Colorado State. And I had the opportunity, which I don't know if anyone else was in the same boat, but this regional research committee, the portion that Oregon State got was actually what paid my for my tuition and so forth at Colorado State. I continued some of the same work that we had been doing in Oregon. I continued that at Colorado State and worked out in eastern Colorado at their range station, and which was actually about as close to Don Clanton and as it was to Fort Collins when I was out there in eastern Oregon. So, in fact, Don had one of his students over and stayed with us when we were doing field work there. At any rate, so I owe a lot to my early training and up through getting my advanced degree to the old W-34 committee and